This video contains gratuitous use of profanity and uncomfortable pauses to compensate for lack of professionalism and original thought. Viewer discretion advised.
Coming to you live from Over the Edge, we bring you the Nerdy Manroom Show with your hosts, Hassel and Monster. And Monster, change is afoot. It is in the air, so to speak, as we are no longer associated with the nefarious Geek Network and its sinister syndicate or the Teenage Mutant Metal Ninja Studios. We are separated. We've gone our separate ways. They've gone their separate ways. So it's breaking news, people. We wish him the best. All kidding aside, Blake's a pretty good dude. I wish him the best. But we're unshackled. We're back to being uncuffed, and as Vince McMahon once said, the show must go on.
I wouldn't call them nefarious or say we're unshackled by any means. We weren't shackled by them, but it was just a lot of stuff going on for them, a lot of stuff going on for us, and it was unfortunately, I think for them right now, they had some other irons in the fire they had to deal with. So just some parting of ways, nothing, all amicable, nothing.
There's no drama, people. We're just jesting, so to speak.
Yeah,
I'm sure Blake's laughing. He knows. So
I know, but I got to put that out there just to make sure you don't get us in trouble. Because every now and then, you like to do that.
Yeah, I like to stir the pot, and people do take a ball and run with it sometimes. But hey, you know what? That's why I was called Loki in school. But
this was all a nothing bad by any means. It was something to help benefit them and what they're doing in the moment, and we'll still work with them from time to time on other things. It was just one of those. Yeah, for right now, they needed to scale back a little bit to focus on the central part of what they're doing. So we were okay with that. And, at any point in time that we can team up with them, we'll be glad to. But, with that, let's go straight into Geek Week, man. We've got a show here. So let's, I know you said you had a few things. I've done very little, but a little bit here and there. And so let's just jump right into that and see what's been going on with you.
So, Monster, what do you want to talk about?
Don't do that. I did that the other day. It was part of a training. They put me on the spot. Said, "Hey," they put all of us on the spot. It's part of the training. You got to get there and talk for something.
Anytime you get bust into some Cody Rhodes during work training, you've done something.
You got to get there and talk for. You got to facilitate for 2 minutes, and they want to see all of your facilitation skills that you've learned and how you're using them. But you got to talk about something you're interested in for 2 minutes, and they give you a topic that you have. It's a boring work topic that you have to talk about for 2 minutes and see how well you can facilitate that. But I was like, dude, I got up there. I was like, you know what? I am terrible at this when I'm put on the spot to have to come up with the topic. So, in the words of Cody Rhodes, what do you guys want to talk about?
The only thing would have made that better, Monster, if you just said, whoa. And forget my cracking voice, people. I am battling a sinus infection.
I was already I was like, I don't know what I'm going to talk about. And I was like the next last person. I was like, I guess I'm just going to roll with this and see how this goes. So it was a good conversation. Going. It was a good training. It was fun, but it was I wasn't expecting to do that. Oh, but with that, let's jump into what you got going on for your Geek Week. Let's let you go first, and then you can take a little bit of a voice rest before we get back to the focus.
It's been kind of a slow week, to be honest. I did get my I got my armored Azrael in the other day, and I was pretty pissed that I got the red one. Not that I didn't want the red one. I just felt like I would find this one commonly somewhere. I wanted the blue one. I was hoping for the chase. But, alas.
Most of McFarlane's stuff right now, I don't know if he's short packing it on purpose or what, but they're not being very easy to find for all of them. But that red one is the only place I found out it's easy to find is it pops up on Amazon from Amazon.com pretty much every day for a few minutes.
And you know what? The pictures when it's like full tilt, it hides a lot of shit pretty well. You don't realize that realistically, the only thing he changed is new fist, this cowl piece right here, and the head. That's it. Every bit of this is exactly 100% the other Azrael that come out.
The cape pieces, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was talking about the whole, collar and, back. But aside from that, it is 100%. I thought maybe like the upper torso might be a little retooled. No,
All of this
it
stuff
is.
is reuse. I got the green.
Well, smart. I mean, it is.
I got the Silver Age Green Lantern, and you can tell a lot of times that he just paints over stuff with that Silver Age Green Lantern, the Hal Jordan one. It's the Blue Beetle body just painted over because he's got the cuff around the top of his boots that Green Lantern doesn't have, but Blue Beetle has that cuff. And every character that has a flat boot like that, he uses those same legs for everybody.
I mean, look at it from a production standpoint. I mean, he got 3 figures out of this one. Oh, yeah, with minor retooling. I mean, and he does that with all the others. I mean, it's a smart business.
Well, they all do. I mean, all of them use something from others. It's just his are far more just repainted.
His are more noticeable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I mean, you could have took the time to sand that off the production model or something. I mean, come on.
Yeah. Aside from that, man, Raw was kind of at best. I'm a little hyped up for Clash at the Castle this weekend. I'm hoping it winds up being a good event. I will say I did watch the NXT PLE Sunday. I never watched NXT, but Jordan Grace being on there from TNA and Ethan Page, all ego so to speak, it piqued my interest. I said, you know what? Let me give him a check out. Maybe there's something more to this than just elaborate fucking entrances like it's always been in the past. And it failed miserably. I sat there through that whole pay-per-view just like, man. It wasn't even like with AEW, at least you got some spot fest. It's some good matches. I mean, the storytelling and whether it makes sense or not might not be there, but it's good matches. This wasn't even good matches. I'm not invested. I didn't give a shit about none of the characters, and some of those I don't really know them. But nothing appealed to me. Like, I mean, even if you don't know, your casual fans should be able to watch and connect to their stars at least, the big ones.
Well,
I didn't do that. I never felt that.
But with NXT, it's really, you have to watch the shows because they only get an hour long block every week. So one story may not come back around until 2 more weeks later. So I kind of see where you have to watch that. No, it's only an hour.
Oh, really? I thought it was 2 hours.
No, unless they've changed it. I know the last time I watched it, it was only an hour, but I get that. And it's hard for me to, I can't really watch it that often. I'm like, I don't care about it. Braun and Breaker was, and him and Baron Corbin together were the last things that were entertaining to me on there. But now they've moved back up to the main roster. But I will say that I did watch something from just a Wrestle News thing before we started recording. I was finishing up work, was listening, and I guess Cody was on the NXT show this week.
Yeah, he was on there last night.
And he went out there and they announced this 25-man battle royal for, I don't know if it's for a belt or for number 1 contender or whatever.
Yeah, it's the number 1 contender to be Trick Williams world champion.
It made the comment that it's open to several locker rooms, so that's like, okay, they're trying to say that they got some AEW male talent coming over, like Jordan Grace showed up there from TNA.
They've got a working relationship with TNA now, and TNA's world champion said he's only going to come to the main roster. He's not fucking with NXT because he said that he's beat McIntyre, he's beat Lashley. There's one more big name on the main roster he's actually beat from their TNA days. So he was like, I'm going straight there. And that part right there. But there's supposed to be a big announcement Sunday. Noah has a huge show in Japan, and WWE is supposed to be making a big announcement with them on Sunday. So apparently they're going to be working with Muda's organization some.
Well, the one I'd like to see show up in there is that Joe Hendry, just because he is so over with the casual fans just from his theme song and all that crap, and his little, he is basically he is the Seth Rollins of that group. It's like everybody wants to sing his song and stuff. Nobody really cares about his wrestling, from what I can tell, but he's got that little "If You Believe in Joe Hendry" song, and he pops up just out of nowhere. Like they were interviewing somebody about having to face him, and they said his name, and then he's just standing next to him, like, "Hey guys." They're like, "Where did you go from?"
He's Santino Marella.
Yes, but he is quite funny. And his song is his song is pretty over. And I was like, all right, I'd like to see him actually show up in NXT. That would be funny. But
R-Truth did have a pretty good segment this week on Raw. Did you see that?
I did not see all of. Only thing I think I saw of him was his match. I get the abridged version because I get it on Hulu. But So sometimes I get to see their stuff, sometimes I don't. I will say Finn Balor tickled me this week when they were talking about Liv trying to hit on Dominic, and she left her room key. Then they all butt fist, and he slides the card off the table, puts it in his jacket like nobody saw him.
Yeah. Dude, I fell asleep at the end, but I remember that portion you're talking about there, because Carly is, oh, that's cool. And the Finn's like, no, that's not cool. He's like, oh, it's not cool. And shit, that tickled me pretty good. And apparently, after the Ricochet spot, when Samantha Irwin left, McAfee was, slaying it on announcing, from what I understand. I'm not sure. I fell asleep. I didn't even see the outcome of the R-True match, but
I will say that
segment was funny.
I saw Braun Breaker basically murder Ricochet, so yeah, that was the last thing I saw before I fell asleep. He destroyed that little kid.
He was fucking up Dragunov when I fell asleep. Like, literally, I fell asleep in the chair, and I woke up when my wife called me, and I was like,
did you not see what he did to Ricochet afterwards?
I caught it online.
Yeah, he looked like he killed that. Did you throwing him through the windshield of the car was?
Well, he ran Mysterio'd him.
Yes, that's the one that looked like it was painful. It was like there was no slowing down. He threw that dude, and he was just flying.
No, I don't think that kid knows his own strength, man. That kid's going to be special. He's going to be a big star.
That's like Jim Cornette said about the Steiner brothers. They were just so strong. They picked you up and put you where they wanted you, whether you wanted to go there or not.
And he got those genetics, so he is a genetic freak, just like his uncle and dad. Because his dad is very underrated as far as his strength levels as well.
Oh, yeah.
So he just didn't have the physique that Scott had.
Yeah.
But I did see the same supplements.
I did see another thing last night from Cody real quick before we'll move on from there. But did you see where he was backstage and he runs into like 3 or 4 of the people who have come over from AEW? He's like, looks like you're all in a good place
you
now.
Were going to talk about. That's the one.
I was getting there, but when he tells him, you look like you're all in a good place, I was like, man, that was a deep shot right there.
Yeah, Cody is not pulling any punches, but he's doing it strategically enough to where if the day comes, he's fine.
Well, yeah.
And that day will come. I mean, he'll probably do another. He probably has 3 years on his current deal. When that deal's up here, probably about the AEW.
As long as AEW still
there. If it's in business.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that they are hedging all their bets on this great contract TV deal they're going to get, and it's not materializing. And as much as they try to say they are, and what's his name, reporter dude, Dave Meltzer tries to say that, oh yeah, they're not unhappy with the deal. It's like, if you weren't unhappy, you'd have already signed them and tell the people.
Yeah, that was the first thing I seen was Tony Khan was very unhappy with the deal, and then it was like, no, that's not true, because they probably thought about it. I mean, it was very stupid to say that. And then I suppose they were offered something better later, but it's never materialized. I don't know.
But man, the way they keep doing stuff, I mean, you got Edge out now with a broken leg after. It's like you got people jumping shit left and right.
What are you doing, guy? What are you doing, fella? All the contracts are up at one time. Like literally, it's like boom,
7
boom,
people
boom,
left
boom.
last week. It was Arn Anderson, Mark Henry, a few of the other ones who were not at that same level, but yeah, I get it. They're not in the ring wrestling, but you lost them.
Not to toot my own horn, but on our social media on Facebook, I literally put there like, damn, did all their contracts fall at one time? And Jay Cargill and Tiffany Stratton both liked it. I'm just saying. They just throw that out there.
Well, I mean, that's not boding well, but like the whole reason Edge got hurt is because the person he's doing this spot with didn't do their part right, so he had to adjust on the fly, and it's like, oh crap, too late.
Yeah, I don't understand why he didn't just go through the fucking table with the guy. He got hurt far less than coming straight down on his fucking feet. He was like a kid with a sinking
I didn't see the whole thing, but from what I heard of it, from listening to a couple other podcasts, was that it was supposed to be with like barbed wire or something that's on the table, but the barbed wire was supposed to be sitting where it's not going to hit anybody, but it was facing straight up, so when it would hit the edge, it actually could have sliced into his skin pretty deeply and possibly give him severe lacerations.
He talks like he's coming back. Initially, I kept hearing that he might be done for, but he's talking about he's only worked with a quarter of the locker room, and he's how happy he was and excited and this, that, and the other, and I don't know. We'll see.
I mean, there's some other people who work with a quarter of the locker room, and they almost killed Jeff Hardy like 3 or 4 times to the point where they left. So
that's the thing. Like the Hardy Boys are done, but and on the WWE side, their shit's falling back to back. Because you just had Gable's contract was coming up, but the push he was getting, you knew he was re-signing. Whether he was bluffing out or not, you knew he was re-signing. Ricochet's done, and he'll go to AEW, and while he will have some incredible matches there with people like Osprey and a few others, he will never be a star. He will fucking flounder there. If he goes to TNA, the same deal. Booker T's now hyping that his deal's up this summer. Who gives a fuck? I mean, I don't like Booker T. Don't get me wrong, I do like him, but
he's an
him
announcer,
and that.
yes.
But he's hard to watch as an announcer. I love his podcast.
Yeah,
announcing when he was Chet Lemon. Now when he was that cat on TNA, I love that. Him and Nash was pretty damn funny out there together. But they were trying to be funny.
Yeah.
But that guy he's announcing with on NXT, does he not sound just like Eric Bischoff?
A little bit. I don't watch it enough to really remember what he
I was
sounds like.
watching the show Sunday.
I remember being annoyed the last time I tried to watch it just by listening to him. But I was like,
he sounds just like Bischoff during the Nitro era. Which, speaking of that, that's a nice little cutaway into the other thing. Have you seen the first episode of Who Killed WCW?
No, I haven't. Not yet.
It's actually really good, dude. I mean, The Rock done a great job on it, and they don't it's not a hatchet job. They're not just like.
What are they airing that on? Because that's the thing. I saw it was coming out, and I was like, what is it airing on?
It's on Vice TV.
Okay, yeah. So I won't get it till they finish airing all the episodes because Hulu only gets the shows for Vice afterwards.
If you look on YouTube, I know the first episode at least is on YouTube. It's Chris Daly from Fueled by Weird. He sent me the first episode. Shout out to you, buddy. But I did watch it on. He sent it to me on YouTube, and I watched it on Vice. So
I wasn't sure if it was on Vice or if it was on A&E, and because the A&E I can watch it as long as the episodes are unlocked, and they usually do that after the first week of them being out. But Vice stuff doesn't pop on Hulu until usually after the show is completely aired.
Well, The Rock $7 production, they done it, and they done a damn good job, and they got a good enough group to where it's like. You got the wrestlers' takes on it, and then you got like the behind the scenes shit. Because there's a lot of shit that the people didn't know what went on behind the scenes, like what the executives dealt with and shit like that. And they've actually got Brad Siegel on there. They brought Jim Herd in. I mean, they got a lot of these guys that everybody fucking hated and had been a punching bags. Like literally, Ric Flair went on Twitter Monday, and he was like, "3 people's to blame for three-headed beast for the downfall." And of course, you knew it was going to be. He was going to say Jim Herd, Bischoff, Russo. Well, then he immediately went on there after the new second episode aired last night. He immediately went on there today and was apologizing to all 3 of them. He had a phone call with Bischoff. They kind of buried the hatchet now all of a sudden. There's a lot of shit that apparently he wasn't know. He was unaware of. And when he watched the second episode, he's like,
He needs to keep his mouth closed anyway before the Italian comes after him from the pizza place.
Yeah, he is a fucking train wreck. That's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
But now Bret Hart, he's pulling no punches on there. Ooh.
Oh, I'm sure
he hasn't went into full. In the first episode, he did not go full blown. I hate Goldberg yet. It's coming. I know it's coming.
But let's go back to one thing you talked about a minute ago, talking about Ricochet going to AEW. He'll be okay over there. I mean, he's not going to be a superstar, but he'll be over there and he'll be okay. But as I watched that match with Ilya Dragunov and Braun Breaker, and then watched Braun try to murder Ricochet, I'm like, it's a very good thing that he trained and did in WWE's system and did not go to AEW, because that fool would kill somebody with some of his moves, because he doesn't know his own strength. And he doesn't botch his moves, but you could tell sometimes he hits those guys and they're like, oh shit, you weren't supposed to hit me that hard.
He's
and
snug.
It's like, he would hurt somebody in AEW. He would kill them.
Oh God, he'd be like Goldberg back in the day. I mean, spade's a spade. I mean, the man ended one of the greatest of all time's careers, and I do get Brett's fury and anger because, I mean, let's be honest, he would have had another 10 or 15 years in the ring if he went part time.
Sure,
like a lot of them do, and he would not have possibly had a stroke. So many, it cost the man millions of dollars, whether anyone wants to acknowledge that or not. But I mean, so I get his initial frustration, but I mean, it's been, 25 years? Let's let it go. And at this point, he's harboring more than he's helping.
At some point, too, you got to realize, too, as bad as that is, it was not purposeful. It was an accident.
No, I mean, he's just green. He was green at the time. Like, no different than Warrior or anyone else that, got pushed because of their look.
And the contract he had with him and stuff over there, Bret Hart could have very easily said, "No, I'm not doing it."
Oh yeah, he had the.
They everybody over there turned left and right and said, I'm not doing that, or I'll do that. I'm not going to do that. He had
That was one of
well.
the first things they started kicking on was Hogan's creative control. They don't pull no punches. So you got both sides of this, and they let Bischoff say his part. But some of the other wrestlers were on there too, like Nash is on there, and Nash is like, well, do y'all want the real story, or do you just want the bullshit that you're going to put on here anyways? And like it kind of opened with that, and I was like, oh shit. But I mean, they don't pull no punches. They let it go, and
Yeah,
I've enjoyed the first episode. I mean, I'm the second episode there last night, so I will probably watch it in the next day or two, maybe over the weekend.
Once it pops on Hulu, I'll watch it, but it won't be till the show ends. But But since we've been on wrestling for a little bit, what else have you been up to, sir, for your geek week?
I watched the first episode of Monarch last night. I've only got 7 more to go between now and next Monday. It's going to be a daunting task. They're all like about an hour apiece. But it's pretty damn good. Other than the time, it's kind of a time jumper. And it throws you out for a minute because, I knew, because Kurt Russell's in it. His son Wyatt's in it. And you know that Wyatt's the younger Kurt. But the way it started, it was kind of like, you didn't realize it. And then it starts out with like the John Goodman and Skull Island deal. So, I mean, you've got a bunch of the jumping, and then they keep hopping around the San Francisco from the initial Godzilla. So, I mean, so far, it's pretty damn interesting. The guy that plays Scorpion, he was like the corporate bad guy, and I forget which one. Was it Godzilla 2, maybe?
I think so.
Whichever one it was, I forget. I just remember him being the corporate bad guy. He was the head of the corporation. His daughter and son is in it, but they didn't. Apparently, he had 2 families. They didn't know about it. Like, he had one family in Japan, and he had one fucking family in America. And the daughter and the wife in San Francisco found some keys. So the daughter goes to fucking Japan to, see what her dad's got going on over there after he's perished. And there's a whole fucking family over there as a wife and son over there. And everybody's like, what the fuck are you doing in my house? And it's pretty good. And then the son and her have this like oil and water deal going on. But yeah, by the end of it, they start kind of coming together. They had a Godzilla scare. Like later, they got Godzilla shelters there. Like the sound goes off, everybody hollers, Godzilla! And all that, and hide in the bunker. And like the wife is like, the wife of the other wife is consoling the chick, because she's having flashbacks. She got PTSD from the shit in San Francisco.
Oh yeah, I can imagine.
And justifiably flu. I mean, if your city was attacked by a kaiju, you would be pretty fucked up, I'm sure. So if you survived, so it's pretty interesting so far. I kind of dug it. I finished the first episode like 10:45 last night, and I had to make myself stop because I knew what would have happened. If I went down that rabbit hole, I would not have made it to work this morning.
I that's one that I've got to watch. I mean, I don't have the Apple TV right now, so I'm waiting until I do that and watch it. But I'm running low on some other shows to watch, so I might try to do that pretty soon.
I got to pack in what I can before football starts. I mean, literally, we're in June, so I've literally got till end of August to watch TV. I mean, in August, it's football. It's all consuming, and that is what goes on. So, but that's pretty much my geek week. What you got going, Monster?
Since we've been talking about stuff we've been watching, I will say that I have, since I got home from travel, I did watch, catch up on the first 2 episodes of The Acolyte. Pretty good show. I've enjoyed that one so far.
I was curious about that. Is it actually good? Because I reached out to Big Rob, and I was just so totally surprised at the fact that he had not watched it. But I had read some things online that kind of led me to be worried or concerned.
Well, it's set 100 years before the Empire. So first of all, there's going to be some differences, but it's the height of the Jedi, and they're dealing with stuff, and it's not a bad. The story, the plot line is actually really good so far, and I like the fact that they went back to what they had in some of the original trilogy movies. There's these quirky background aliens that don't speak English. They're not human looking. They just they make these sounds, and that's their type of talking, but they're animated enough that you get the point of what they're trying to do. I mean, it's just like,
kind of like Chewbacca.
Yeah, I mean, but they are entertaining in what they're doing, and then the story of it's actually pretty good. I won't spoil it here, so since it's only 2 episodes out, the 3rd one just dropped today, I won't go into a lot of story, but everything I've seen so far has been good. Now, is it the greatest TV show ever? No. But is it good? Yeah, it's entertaining and enjoyable.
Well, what was your thoughts on, okay, what made Anakin so special? He was a variance in the Force. I mean, he's pretty much Force Jesus. But they do this in the Acolyte. So what is your thoughts on that?
What do you mean they do that in the Acolyte?
I haven't watched it, but I read it. It was this big stink online amongst some fans about apparently one of the Jedi couples. There's a Jedi couple on there that's lesbian, and somehow or another they wheel the Force and get one of them pregnant.
I have not seen any of that.
And maybe it's coming up in an upcoming episode, but it's done leaked online. Maybe that's what it was. I'm not sure, but I know I read that during the week, and I was like, ooh, that's literally what made Anakin so special was the fact that he was that. So how are you going to do it? Even though I know it's 100 years in the past, but still, I mean, don't they kind of?
Yeah, I don't know about any of that. I haven't seen any of that, so I can't speak to that. I can tell you that that from what I've seen so far, the Jedi who were on there, you know, not to go into a lot of details, but there's a young girl who used to be a Padawan. She's left the order or whatever because they all complain she was too old to start anyway. But and then she's accused of a murder, and that's what brings a bunch of these Jedi out to go find her. And it's not her that does it, I will say that. But I mean, you find that out in the first episode. But they're out there, and her former master is working with her, and a couple other young ones. One who's just been promoted to a knight, and one who was still a Padawan for her former master. It's a new Padawan for him. And in the very first episode, I mean, I was surprised at the very first episode they killed off the girl from Matrix, Carrie Ann Moss.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she was. I thought she was one of the main characters, and she's part of the main backstory of this girl was the Padawan, who's the acolyte or whatever. But she was killed off in the first episode. But it's cool to see the Jedi at their height and what they do, and then like they have different temples on different planets and stuff. Now there was this one that I got tickled by this Jedi that runs around, and I'm like, it's not what you expect him to be because he's a pretty big fella, but he's funny and entertaining when he's on there.
I've seen the pictures online. There's some pretty brutal memes out here. Let's go ahead and put it this way.
Yeah, and there's some scenes in here where you get the impression that something went on with several of the Jedi on the planet they were on, because it's like certain ones are being targeted, and it's because they were there. Now you get the impression that maybe not all of them were in on this. If they did something wrong, or if they didn't do something right, or whatever it is, I got the impression that not all of them were involved, because the master who is on there, who's Padawan they're trying to help, he seems to be like really cool and upstanding. And then but there's something going on, because one of the Jedi that they killed off in the series had put himself in a meditative state and had not spoken to people for years, and he just sits there and floats. Like this one person tries to attack him and they can't even punch him, because it's like he's just got a wall of force energy around him, because he's just been sitting there floating, meditating for like the last 5 or 6 years.
Okay. Another one thing I did find impressive is that I guess he's supposed to be the main cat. The sole reason he took the role because he was inspired by Qui-Gon Jinn, so he kind of wanted to, I guess, put that forth on the screen again.
Yeah, well, I mean, I have enjoyed the show so far, but again, I'm only 2 episodes in, and I haven't. And again, some of the stuff you're talking about, I haven't seen or even heard of. But I was out of touch a lot last week. I was in training class, and it was full days every day, and then going out and eating at night, going to do team events. So I was like completely cut off for the most part.
From what I understood, it was the 3rd or 4th episode. I'm not real sure certain, because like I said, I haven't watched any of it yet. I was going to, and
the 3rd one just
life happens
today because it's Wednesday. But I mean, besides that, the only other things I've done is I watched. I did get caught up on Doctor Who, the current season. Some of those have been really good, and I've been kind of surprised because a couple of episodes, it's like he's hardly even in it. And I don't know if that's just a scheduling conflict, so they worked around it or what, but there's 2 or 3 episodes where it's like you see him for 5 to 10 minutes of the show, and the rest of the show is really just the companion or other characters. I'm like, wow, where have you been? So, but it's been good. I've enjoyed watching it. To me, he's one of the more quirky and funny doctors to sit there and watch. So I've enjoyed that so far. I did get JLA, The Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 2, the animated one, because they're doing a 3-part for that. First one was really good. Second one was actually even better. It's there's a very slow part to it because they got to tell you the backstory of, like in the first one, it's all focused on Barry Allen and what's going on with him to lead up to the crisis stuff.
Yeah.
And in the second one, they focused the first 30 minutes or more probably in an hour and a half movie on telling you the origins of Psycho Pirate and how he became such a big player in the Crisis on Infinite Earth. I was like, that was kind of a little bit boring at times, and at times it had some cool scenes, but you had to kind of wade through it. But overall, the story was actually pretty good. And then I think the third one comes out late July or something, but those were actually really enjoyable.
It wouldn't happen to be on your Vudu, would it?
It is, and both of them are on Vudu, and the first one is on.
It's on Max. I think
now,
I watched the first one on Match.
Yeah, they're both on
Vudu.
Vudu.
I hadn't seen the second one yet, so
they are both on my Vudu. So feel free. Other than that, the only thing I've done since I got home from work was I've tried to read a few things and catch up on some stuff. I have caught up for the most part on what I have towards the end of the Krakoa Age of X-Men. I couldn't tell you half of what happened because it was all so boring and contrived. I read it. I just don't remember it.
I did read Weapon X-Men.
Yeah, you said that was actually pretty good. I did not buy that.
I enjoyed it. I can hook you up with a link if you want to look at it online. It's pretty damn good. I mean, I enjoyed it.
I haven't read that. I read the Krakoa Age of X-Men stuff, at least what I've got to, which I'm not done with the Fall of Powers and House of X. I've still got some that haven't arrived yet, but I did start reading their new Marvel crossover Blood Hunt, the one with the vampires attacking.
Mm-hmm.
So far, it's kind of
Why is Wolverine a vampire? I seen an issue or one of the pages I followed. They showed like this Daredevil in all white. He's in a bar with Logan, but Logan's a damn vampire.
That is actually from Daredevil's books, and that's when Logan was possessed. Like Daredevil, the end of the last run of Daredevil, he defeated the Beast of the Hand, but he was trapped in hell with it. Mm-hmm. And when he was expunged from hell after he got himself back into a point where he could get out of hell and like redeem himself and get away or whatever, because he had been kind of trending towards that darker side to fight the Beast. He gets out of there. He comes back and he does not remember his past life. He's got a new life where he's actually, they haven't really explained how all this happened, but he's got a new life where he's actually a father. He runs an orphanage. He's a Catholic priest and all, which he's always tried to be anyway, but he's actually running that. But when he came out, he expunged his versions of his 7 deadly sins. So they take over different people in his life, and he has to fight them to forgive himself for his sins and actually become whole again. So like one of the first ones with Lecter was taken over by one of them. Wolverine was possessed by one of his 7 deadly sins, and they followed each other to a bloody mess in the bar. That's why he was wearing the white suit for whatever reason. He wore the white suit, and they beat each other to. By the end of it, he was just as red as when he his normal suit. But
Midnight Sun's issue looks really good because I was kind of thumbing through it on that site, and it's actually Danny, but the way it kind of comes off of it because he has his 90s look. So and Blade's in it, and so I don't know if maybe this is a flashback or is it supposed to be in current time or what.
I don't know, because that's the thing that I started reading that. So anybody who doesn't want to hear this or hasn't read it yet, skip ahead about 5 minutes.
Spoilers.
Just jump 5 minutes ahead at whatever timestamp we're at. I'm not watching the time, so I don't really know where we are, but take 5 minutes ahead. At the end of the first issue of Blood Hunt, they're like, how did all this come about? How did these vampires attack? And how did they use the Dark Force dimension exploded out of different heroes and villains who used the Dark Force to cover up the sun or to cover the earth from the sun's rays? That's how they're staying out there full time. And at the end of the story, it's like you've got Doctor Strange talking to Blade, and they're trying to figure out how to rebuild the Darkhold because the Darkhold is gone. So the Montesi formula to kill all vampires is gone. And they're trying to find a new way to deal with that. And at the very end, though, they're like, well, how did they get this plan to do all this? And Blade said, oh, that's easy to answer. They said, I came up with it. And he's in charge of all the vampires. So I'm like, all right, you just ruined a great character right there just by flipping them to the wrong side. And Dracula shows up at some point and is apparently opposing Blade and the vampires that are going, because he had a vampire nation built, and that's all he wanted. but he's opposing
Yeah, because
this worldwide.
the teaser for the Free Comic Day was here. He showed up and
Yes.
recruited Zilliana?
Jubilee, I think, because she used to be a
Jubilee.
vampire.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of like, all right, you flip both of these, unless their minds are swapped into different bodies. I don't like this or see this. I've read the stuff, but I'm like, okay, I get that the vampires are attacking, and this is bad for a certain amount of the heroes, but then I look at some of the others like, okay, how do you defeat the Thing? Because you can't bite him. How do you do anything to the Hulk or Wolverine with their healing factors who are not going to be turned? Reed Richards, it's not like you can bite Reed Richards and turn him. Captain America, Spider-Man, sure, you could probably do something to them. Half of these others, I don't know.
The thing is with Spider-Man, you're liable to get radiation poisoning.
That's it, yeah. I mean, but then you've got them fighting all these people that I'm like, okay, how do they do anything with them or to them? And I don't know. I just find it hard to find. Like they showed them like almost like this supposedly these super powered vampires, and one of them supposedly sends a stake through Thor's head. I'm like, really? I'm not buying that.
So that's my biggest problem, Marvel, right now. They're doing kills for shot value, and then they bring them back 2 issues later because it gets undone by some bullshit reason.
Well,
and that just makes it worthless. It makes you feel like you just wasted your time. It's the DC approach of, we'll just wash 70 years of content away and just go in some form that doesn't make sense just because we want it to.
Well, I mean, and then I didn't even get to it yet, but the last thing I've been reading is I've caught up on all my Superman and Action comic books because they started their House of Brainiac storyline, so it's the House of L versus several different versions of Brainiac, and at first I was like, what is this House of Brainiac? But it shows him having collected his stuff from different multiverses, for lack of a better term, but it's like you got the superpowers, fully robotic Brainiac, you got the Challenge of the Super Friends green one with the short pants and the 3 dots on his head, and you got the current ones from the comics and stuff, and the one from...
He doesn't get enough respect. Any organism that can wear briefs with their legs out and tall boots, respect, sir.
Yeah.
Legs like that you got to show off.
That's actually a pretty good storyline, but to back to your point, that whole thing of how Marvel's doing that is almost like what The Boys is to me. And I saw where they announced that The Boys season 5 is the last season. And I was like, thank God, because I'm gonna tell you, the first one was good. The second one was pretty good. By the time you get to the third one, I think they've lost the plot just for shock value stuff. It's like,
this last one was kind of...
In the first 2, there was points where there was like, oh shit, there was like shock value things, but it fit the story.
Yeah.
Now it's like, by the third season, it's like, you could have done this whole episode without that one shock value moment and it'd been just as powerful. And I'm like,
like literally, I love the first 2 seasons. And that third one was just like, you got some good episodes here and there, but it was like, do we really need that? I mean, like, that's kind of, when he went little and he went up the guy's dick and blowed him up, or the fucking Aquaman is fucking an octopus or whatever, and it's like, come on,
it's just too much.
Do we need this? Yes. So I am interested to see where Spider-Man goes. I was getting caught up, and then I've been out of the loop for the last little while, and I was just kind of thumbing through the most current issue last night looking, and he appears to be possessed by Green Goblin. I guess Norman Osborn's back to his nefarious ways, and at the same time, Chasm shows up, and he looks like he's going to save the day.
Last thing I saw, well, I just read the stuff that's crossed over to the Blood Hunt, but the last thing I saw that was before that was I read Gang Ward, and the issues were Chasm and Hallows Eve were there. And
well, apparently, so I guess they had one of those mind helmets on or something. It shows a flashback. And it's like Peter and him was doing something, but he seems to have his mental faculties a little better. And him and Hallows Eve have a thing of a dream he has. And at the end of it, Peter's in like Green Goblin Spider-Man suit.
I've seen that was coming, but I haven't seen that.
So he fucks the Sinister Six up bad by himself, and like he's not holding back. Well, it shows you how powerful Peter really is if he doesn't hold back. Like he's fucking them up. Like literally, the Avengers show up at one point, and he's like, you guys got here really quick. And the next thing you know, he like fucks him up, and then it's like Mysterio tried to bluff, but he's like seen through it. But then Chasm shows up, and he tries to get through to them. That's where the issue ends. So it's like, how do they get here? Because I'm a few issues behind. I have to catch up. It looks interesting though.
I saw the last time that Chasm and Hallows Eve were there, and it was the machine that created Hobgoblin, or Roderick Kingsley used on Ned Leeds to implant false memories.
To make him think he was.
Yeah. Dr. Kafka, who had been turned into the Goblin Queen months and months ago, was told Chasm she could use that to restore his memories, but really she was just going to use that to do him in just to prove her point or to I guess get her revenge on whatever. But that was like 2 issues right after Gang War. I don't know if you've read Gang War yet, but it was right after that.
No, I hadn't got that far. I got up to Tombstone and Tombstone's daughter marrying Robbie's son. That's as far as I had gotten. Then that's why I went back to work, and I didn't have time to read comics. So one of them I've read on my phone, and I do have a wonderful app that has current shit, but yeah, I don't have time to just sit there and read comics, unfortunately.
Yeah,
I hate that too because I keep buying them. I sent my daughter today. She's like, "Dad, what do you want for Father's Day?" I was like, "I don't fucking know. I thought you had just when is Father's Day?" She's like, "Sunday." So,
Sunday the 16th.
So I told her, I said, just come out our sponsor, the Zone Collectibles, 305 Main Street, Tipton, Georgia, and get my books. I said I haven't been buying in a while because I don't work in Tipton no more. So just go by and pick my books up. Well, I didn't think about it. She was like, well, how much did it be? And I told her what it should be. She tells me, it was twice what you said. And I was like, what? She said, it was twice what you said. And I was like, wait a minute, kid. Did you look through the books? Well, no. I said, typically there's 2 to 3 copies of each one because she always pulls the variant covers. And I look through them and see what covers I want for each issue. Yeah. So apparently she bought them off.
Well, I will say that I still get mine every month, and I'm behind on them just because I've been traveling so much. But I bought a couple omnibuses lately. What did I get? Nova, Richard Rider Nova omnibus, and I got the omnibus for the 0 Hour stuff. And I haven't even cracked them out of the plastic yet because I didn't have time. But they're so heavy too. Because normally I will take graphic novels with me. And that's what I'll read when I travel. And then when I come home, I'll just read current comics. And even though I've reread some of the same stuff multiple times, but those are too heavy to put in my suitcase and travel. Because if you go fly and one of them books weighs a couple pounds, I'll be over the 50-pound limit. Me paying extra baggage fees real quick.
Well, we were at the wife's last weekend or the weekend before. Like knuckleheads, we have 2 homes. I was digging them. All my comics are out there other than my current stuff. And I was looking through some long boxes, like, what the fuck's in here? Because I thought I'd done a good job of writing on top of each long box what's in each one. But on some of them I got lazy and just like various trades. But I found my 0 Hour trade paperback in there. I was like, literally that's the first paperback trade I ever bought. I remember being 15 years old. It was the first trade paperback I ever bought. I bought that in The Age of Apocalypse. It was a gold issue. It was gold trade paperback that had like a handful of stuff from the tail end and then the Omega story. It was like a one shot. Found both of those in there and I was like, it was the first 2 trades I ever bought. And I was like, so tempted to reread these, even though I've read them like a dozen times.
I take those on, like right now I'm reading, I went through all the Batman Nightfall stuff and then I started on Death and Return of Superman. So I'm on the last book no, not the last, because the Superman Doomsday is the last one. It's the one before that. It's actual Return of Superman part of the volumes there. And then the next was Superman Doomsday. But I take those and I'll travel with those because I got to put it in luggage. I'm worried current comics will get destroyed in luggage or in my backpack. And I got to carry it around. And I'm like, all right, I don't want to carry it in my backpack because it's heavy. So I put it in my luggage. But they're going to fall around in luggage. They're going to get bent up, tore up. So those trades, I don't care if they do because I'm just going to reread them again anyway.
Do them all the hell on back. Yeah.
Yeah. So I put those, but I can't take those omnibus ones because they're the hardcover already and they're like, this thick. I'm like, these things weigh 2 or 3 pounds. I can't afford that.
Sitting beside my recliner in her house right now. And it's Doomsday Clock, the 3 Jokers, and there's the Return of the Green Goblin, but it's where Norman gets beat up by Sin Eater and gets his sins expunged and becomes helpful Norman, because I never read it. I actually picked that up at an Ollie for $6.
Yeah, most
And I was
of
like-
mine have come from places like that, but I've got that's what I take is those trades and to read, and it's just. But speaking of that, while we're on that, because we've been on Geek Week for a while, let's just use that as a good segue straight into what we're going to talk about comic convention, because that's the place I buy most of my trades if it's not at Ollie's. I will buy a few off Amazon if I really, really want one, and I've got like 3 of them saved on Amazon. I'm looking at it right now, but I'm like, they're full price right now because they're, well, a little on sale, but still $125 because there's those omnibuses, and I'm like,
Oof.
it's the DC versus Marvel one, the DC versus Marvel Amalgamate one, and then the last volume of New Warriors Omnibus, which covers the last few issues of New Warriors. Because I've got all the trades for New Warriors up to what starts in that last omnibus, and I'm like, damn, I don't want to pay $125.
Is that what leads up to Civil War? Is that?
No, well, this is the last of the '90s New Warriors. So before they ended their initial run, so I'm like, man, all those are in there, and I'm like, I'm looking at those in Amazon. I'm like, but they're all still over $100, and they're all pre-order, so that's why they're not dropping in price. But I'm like, used to be I would go to comic conventions and buy those things like that. Now every now and then I'll buy one off Amazon like that, but most of the time I'll wait because I looked at one the other day like Alpha Flight Omnibus because I want it $70 for a $150 book. I'm like, once I have enough hotel points where I don't have to spend money on that, I'm gonna buy it. But
so now that we're on the conventions, what's your strategy when you go to a con for purchasing? Well, we're gonna talk about the cons themselves later, but what's your strategy when you go into a con and you know, okay, we got say 2 days here, or even if it's a 1-day thing?
No matter
what's your kind of strategy?
My first thing is I will pick. Usually, you walk in the door and you're not on one side. You're usually in the middle, right?
Yeah.
So you gotta say, okay, I will pick a path. I'm either going to turn to the right and go all the way to the end of the right, and as I go along, I will look at dealers and tables along that path to the very end. And then I get to the end, and then I will go down the first row, and I will come up the next row, and I will go up, and just like going to a grocery store, I'll go up and down every row until I get through the entire con, and I'll check the outer perimeter. As I go up and down rows, the outer perimeter that I walked to get to my first starting point, my first left or right hand turn, that stuff I've already looked at. I won't look at those again, but when I get to the next perimeter part, like when I'm going from one aisle to the next, I'll stop and look at the 2 end tables or whatever, however many, depending on how big the rows are. I'll stop and look at those rows, those tables, and then I will go up the next row. And then when I get to that end, I'll do the same unless that's where I started. And then I snake up and down all of them until I get through every row before I will buy anything unless it's something that I just absolutely have to have. So, and by that, I mean, if I walked in there and they had, because I did this once before, I walked in there and they had White Lantern, Hal Jordan, hanging on the wall behind me. That's one of those convention exclusive things that somebody else had bought it at the convention. I wasn't at the convention it was at, but somebody else had bought it there and had it on their table for sale. And it's one of those things I had looked at on eBay a few times. I was like, I don't want to pay that eBay price for it. I will pay close to that eBay price in person, knowing that I don't have to pay for shipping, and I got it right there, and I got to wait on.
Don't worry about being damaged in transit,
or it doesn't show up at all because the post office lost it or whatever. So if I saw, like when I walked by and I saw that one, I was like, oh, I'm gonna buy it right now. So I bought it right that second, and I had to carry it around through the rest of it, but I didn't buy another single thing until I walked all the rows, and then I was like, tried to mentally note there was something on row H or row 7 or whatever it was that I wanted to go back and look at because I liked that and I didn't see it anywhere else for a better price. I'll go look at it. And if I saw stuff that if I had in mind stuff that I wanted, I would look for that specifically. A lot of times I don't because it's just like whatever I come across that I like to have. But if I see it at one table, I won't buy it at the first one I see because the price might not be the best one.
Typically, whatever's closest to the door, they're higher.
That's a lot of times true because people walk in there, it's like, ooh, it's that buyer's thing right away. But I have that buyer's remorse if I will see it later. I'm like, there's 35 over there, it's 25 over here. I could have saved $10 towards something else. Yeah. So I walk the whole thing unless it's a very, very much needed item. I'm going to walk the whole thing, and I can tell you on probably one hand the number of times that I stopped and bought it very first thing right out the gate. Most of the time, I look at the whole convention floor, and then I start going back through. I will make at least 2 rounds of the entire place because sometimes I can't keep a mental note of all the spots I want to go back to.
Yeah.
But after 2 full rounds, I know exactly, okay, I didn't see this anywhere else and it's at this table, so I got to go back over there later to get that. Or I want to go back and look at that again if I don't find something else before I get back there after the second round that I want. So I'll make at least 2 loops and then I will go back to specific tables. But honestly, nowadays, because there's not as many vendors or they don't have as much good stuff, I don't spend more than a day at many of them anymore.
Yeah, the 2 and 3 day con seems to be drying up, so to speak. Because I remember we busted my con cherry. Like I done the opposite of what you just said. Like literally, we went in the door. I started buying shit. Like, ooh, boom, boom, boom.
Yeah, but then you
And
get 3 tables in, you're like, I'm fucking broke.
Yeah, and you guys are like, hey, whoa, wait. Do you gonna find it cheaper? No. And by the time we get to the back, middle or back, it's like, hey, it's like $10 cheaper. That's $20 cheaper. You know what I'm saying? So like I learned a valuable lesson. You guys try to tell me, and being a rookie, I made a mistake, but now I 100% will do exactly what you're saying is, it's you make your path through at least once. One good full time, I can kind of start gauging then. But like what it was back then, like this was say around 99, 2000. A con would be like in multiple places at the same time. There's so much shit to check out. The last con I went to was Days of the Dead in Atlanta. And like literally, we made a good pass through the first time, and I was like, and even though it was kind of spread out, it was a well-run con. It's just not as much there on the floor, purchasing-wise.
Well, think about how it's changed too. So when we were in the 90s and even before that. If it's a small local thing, it's only like one day. If it's a local, if it's at the local armory or the VA or whatever, it's a 1 day thing. You're done. If you go to one that's like let's just use Dragon Con for example, it's supposed to be a 3 day full weekend experience, right? At least it was back then. Still is now, but it's more towards the fantasy realm. It's much less comics than what it was.
It was drifting there last few times we went, yeah.
But if you went to that for 3 days, if you notice when you would go out there, the first day, most of the tables are not even fully set up. They're still going through their shit, deciding what they want to put out. Second day, they put out more stuff, and it's usually the better stuff that you want. And so you spend more on that day. If you go for the third day, the only reason to go on a third day is if there's something you really want and it hasn't sold and you notice it's still sitting there, because then you can haggle prices. On day 2, you ain't haggling prices.
That is the best part. Now, day 2, you're not haggling them down a bit. Day 3, they don't want to pack all this shit up. So they're thinking anything I sell this day, like some of the best things I bought was day 3 or the final day of the con. Like I got a giant Ghost Rider in there, my first appearance of Morbius. All of that was the last day of the con, and I was able to, get it at a good price that way, through haggling or whatever. And there's no greater satisfaction than knowing they wanted this. You got them down to here. And I don't want to be all PC and say Jude them down, but that's what you do.
Well, it depends on what it is, right? Because I've gone to some, and here's how things have changed. Though that's what a 3 day con used to be, and you used to get a better discount to buy a full 3 day pass than you would pay singular days. Now, it costs you just as much for 3 day passes as to buy an individual day. And they're not haggling prices on that third day anymore. Now they've got it down to where they're like, I'm taking this because I can sell it somewhere else. Like in the past, I've gone in and bought stuff that's hundreds of bucks. Talked them down to 50, 60, 70. Half off I'm good with. I'll buy it for that. I went into one a couple of years ago, and I had bought so I will share this, and this is a trade secret that some of us do, but if you go out there and you know people who work at the convention, like they run a booth there or a vendor table, usually when they get a vending table, they get X number of passes. If you know some of them and you know that they don't like working it with their partners because they have to share the money when it's 2 or 3 of them working, they split whatever profit they make that day. Here's the initial cost from the vendor. The vendor itself will hire people who just do this on the weekends, part-time people. It's not their main work. So the vendor says, okay, here's the cost of running it. It's $100. If you make $300, you guys get the other 200. You got to figure out how you split it between each other. So when you find those people who run those booths like that, and you become friends with some of them, and they're like, yeah, I'm going to go work that con. You coming to it? I was like, yeah, I don't want to spend the $70 or $80 to get in there. They're like, oh, no, I was asking because I don't have anybody to take my other vendor passes. And and I'm working it alone because I want to keep the money I make. I don't want to share it. So they'll get 2-3 vendor passes, whatever it is. So they just give me a vendor pass, and then I get it for free. So when I get that, I get to go for all the days. But I went into one, and I was there. And on the third day, and on 2 days, I noticed that they had the Green Lantern power battery, the prop replica one, which is the full size one. I wanted one. I didn't have it at the time. So I was like, all right,
it, people.
I will buy that. The normal sales price, I think at the time, was like 150, 170, something like that. Well, they had it up there and had it marked up to almost $200. Well, I ain't paying extra for it, even though it's out of stock and you can't really buy it. I'm not paying that for it. On the third day, I walked by and tried to see what they were selling it for. The guy's like, yeah, well, I guess I can let it go for about 170. I was like, dude, I'm not paying that for it right now. He's like, so that's as low as I can go. Sorry. And it's like that was just an example. But I saw that on a couple other people doing stuff like a couple other things that I looked at like that, and they don't do that anymore because it's like, unless it's something that they've brought a big tub of like action figures or like loose figures that they're just trying to sell off as parts and pieces, they're like, I don't want to take that back home. They don't really do that anymore.
Would you say that the explosion of online vending or online selling has kind of changed their outlook on whether to let it go at the live dollar right there?
I think so, because you think of an eBay site, even though you got to pay shipping, and a lot of times you'll market the price no matter what, and then say I'll just eat the shipping costs for free, but you're already selling it over for what it's valued and what you paid for it. It's hard to go back and haggle those prices. It's like, all right, I know what I can do on eBay with it, so yeah, forget about that. The worst part is just carrying it around, right? You pack it up back and forth. But I would tell you this too. The other thing that I miss, I think has changed a lot, is going in there and finding the rows and rows of books that are $1, $2, or buy 20 for $10 or whatever. And you go searching through them, and it's like, okay, you pull out a few issues here and there. That used to be so much fun to do because I could find a bunch of stuff I didn't have, and I built an entire Darkhawk run, sort of like 8 issues by doing that. By pulling them out of
they may not be key issues, but they're like what you're missing to finish a volume out.
Or if you want to create one, like say, like I didn't have a bunch of Darkhawk books when I had a few of them and I enjoyed it, but I didn't collect it regularly. Then I was like, I'd like to have the entire run. I bought the entire run of the convention, except for like 8 issues of it, and I paid less than $1 for all the issues. Because by the time I had enough of them, they're like, I will just do those at this amount for like 50 cents or whatever, just half price. So I bought a ton of stuff like that, and I bought a run of some other books here and there like that. But when you go in there now, it was easier to do them because they went in there and they had their boxes sorted out. And it's like, okay, I go to the Marvel, and I go to N, boom, 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 a new warrior. That's New Mutants mixed in there. That's okay. There's New Warriors again. Now you go in there and they've just thrown the shit in boxes and shown up. It's like,
it looks like my long boxes.
It's not a comic book store style box anymore. That's what comic book stores are. These are the people who only go to conventions now and only sell at conventions. They just grab a bunch of shit and they'll go buy, hey, there's a long box at this auction. I'm going to buy it for $10. I don't know what's in it, but I'm going to go sell the books for $1 a piece. It's like I just trying to thumb through that quickly and move along and do something else. It's hard to do because used to in the past you could stand there, there'd be multiple people standing at boxes and you could do that. And they'll start chatting like, hey, what do you look for? This and this. And they're like, oh, hey, I found one over here. You want it? And it was a camaraderie type thing. And they're like, oh, I'm not looking in this box between us. So you want to set your stuff on there. Now people just walk up there and just grab your shit and move it. And it's like, dude, I was fixing to buy all those, but you just moved them all. And I'm like, I'm looking right here.
Yeah, people have become so much ruder in the last 10 years. And COVID made it worse. It's almost like that was an excuse for people to be dicks going forward. Like, I don't give a fuck if you care or not. I want to do what I want to do.
But I find too, though, if you want comics and actually buy comics at a convention, you have to basically go to those local 1 or 2 day ones now because they are not comic conventions anymore. They have become pop culture, and all the other stuff is taking over. Now, right, wrong, good, or bad, some of that stuff I'm okay with because sometimes I'll buy I've seen swords in there. I'm like, oh, that's a cool He-Man sword. I could buy it here instead of having or it's not a bad price, this or that, or you might find video games, you might find some action figures and toys, but you don't find as many just comic book ones. It's like, okay, there's just rows and rows of comic tables. I'm going to go flip through and buy the stuff I want.
That's a great point right there. And this is something I know you and I have discussed in the past. Like San Diego Comic-Con, every year you used to get hyped up and get so excited. Like when G4 was still on, they would have the 3-day coverage of it on their network for 2 hours each day. And I would like look forward to, I mean, I could never go to San Diego Comic-Con, but I would look forward to, the coverage of them, watching Olivia Munn and the other cat from Attack of the Show on there.
Yeah.
The two of them. Was that Chris Hardwick?
Yeah, he was on some of them.
The two of them kind of doing the Comic-Con stuff. I mean, it was fun, exciting, and whatnot. You got your new trailers, you got a whole bunch of stuff, but just over time, San Diego Comic-Con is not what it once was. Like, it's not even hyped up anymore. We're in June right now. We just started buzzing about Comic-Con. What, late April, early May, probably.
But think
10
about
years ago.
That was more affected by COVID, because even before COVID, it was like, okay, they're still going to tell you, here's all the panels, here's what's happening in Hall H, Hall D, or whatever. And here's who's going to be on that panel and what they're going to talk about. Now it's just like, oh, we just had 3 movie trailer screenings in there, and it's like, oh, wow. It's not even on the internet and stuff anymore. But for 2 years, they didn't have it, so they found other ways to do it, right? So now it's kind of like, it's like they don't put as much effort, but they still expect the same amount of people to show up to it.
Yeah, this one now that I would like, that was on my bucket list at one point. That was one of those things like, I got to go to it. It's no longer that to me anymore. Like, I'd rather go to a big con in the Southeast now than that.
Well, it's become less comic book stuff too, right? It's like, in the past, yes, you get a few movie trailers, but it was mostly comic book related movie trailers or sci-fi movies. Now it's like,
big Marvel and DC panels that went on that you could kind of gauge where they're going in the upcoming year.
Yeah, and now you get there and it's like, oh, well, here's the latest Jennifer Lawrence rom-com trailer. I'm like, I don't care about that. I'll watch it on TV when it comes on, but I didn't come here to see that. Now, I will say the cosplay has gotten better over the years.
This is very true. It has come next level. What's probably the coolest cosplay you think you've ever seen at a con in person?
That's a hard question, because I don't remember which ones I've seen. It's hard to remember a lot of them that I've seen in person, but I've seen the folks who do like where they have the Transformer outfits and they bend down and lean over and they transform and stuff. That's pretty cool, especially when they motorize and they ride around on it. Some of the best ones I saw, I think we were at Dragon Cons, I think is where it was, but some folks had dressed up like the Super Friends JLA, and there was a guy dressed as Hawkman, one dressed as the Atom, and one dressed as Green
I remember
Lantern.
that.
And they put time and effort into making their costumes. That's the thing, the cosplay has gotten better, and some of these people put a lot of time and effort into it, and some of them were there for the contest only. There's a few of them you look at, it's like, you just bought that off the shelf somewhere. Or you paid somebody to make that, because they ain't no way you did that. So since we've been on this for a while and we don't want to have so much time, but cosplay has gotten better. I want to ask this one: what's the worst experiences you have at cons? What's one of the worst things about going to a convention?
The lines. And over time, I people less and less. My patience level is fucking horrible now. I thought with age it would get better, but it is actually worse. But I'll never forget. Okay, the last time I went to MegaCon in Orlando, that was always one of my favorite cons to go to. And I was so pumped at this one right here because I was going to meet Stan Lee this year. So I was pumped. So I took my first, appearance of Morbius with me. And Spider-Man, I wanted to get him to sign it. And dude, we were in line for like 4 hours. We got there early. Like it's not like we waited to straggle up. We got there fucking early. And we waited like 4 fucking hours. And like the whole time his handler's like, don't take no pictures. You take a picture, we're gonna throw you out. We almost got kicked out of the fucking line because, of course, then my ex-wife's a fucking idiot. And she's trying to, snap a picture of Stan there. But it was just disheartening. I waited that long and got there. And, 3 people before you get to Stan, you hand them the handlers your item.
Yeah.
So I handed them my item. And then by the time I get to Stan, it's like, holy shit, I'm meeting the man here. And there was zero conversation. I was like, hey, sir, how you doing? It's an honor to meet you. And he never looked up. He just signs and hands it to the next person and grabs the next one. It's just like he was a warm body. And I was like, holy shit, I just waited for 4 hours to meet you and didn't get not a look up, not a nod, like, hey, guy, Excelsior or anything.
See, I had a different experience from him because when he signed, they were Same experience of you have to hand the handler the stuff, but the line was long. It was like an hour, but by the time I got there to him, it was like he wanted to talk to people and he was trying to, and they kept rushing him on. They're like, "You got to move along.
Well,
You got to
and I
move
think
along."
that may have been the case that day. Like
Because he was
had
like,
those
because
two
he
guys
actually
there
spoke
with
to me.
him.
He was like, "Hey, how's it going? Thanks for being a fan." I mean, it was very quick, but he was like, they were handing me stuff. He's like, he's got a look on his face like I was still talking to people, and y'all are just rushing them off. But
Bret Hart was that way at the con we was at with him, so I can some acknowledgement. Like he never looked up with me, and I was like, "Holy shit!" Then you had to go wait another 2 hours in the CGC line outside because if you didn't get your book fucking graded right then, it could be, that they were saying that that's the only way to get that sticker that's an official Stanley autograph now.
so
At that
that's
time.
the difference. I didn't do the CGC because yes, you still have to do that if you want to get it, CGC graded and stuff. But I went over there and just gave them the $5, and they give you a certificate that says it was signed by them. I was like,
See, I wish I'd done that. I wasted 6 hours of my day right there. By the time we got done with that, I missed out on meeting Hulk Hogan because he was there. And we went straight up to the Sons of Anarchy guy that she wanted to meet. And I was like, fuck it. But no, that guy was pretty cool. But it was like, that's probably the worst experience I've ever had at a con.
So you went full on experience. For me, and what I was thinking about is when you go in there, and there's something you have to deal with at the con that for you it sounds like it was the people, but for me it's like the smell.
Body odor is fucking brutal.
Like, I go in there and I'm like, and it gave me a complex because I'm like, I'm a comic collector.
You'll be allowed.
Is that me?
That ain't me.
But I'm one of those people that after the first couple of conventions I went to, and I was like, man, I like to collect this stuff. I'm in all this. I don't want to be like that. So when I go to work now, I have deodorant and cologne in my bag. So I'm like, if in the middle of the day, if I start smelling, even if it's not me, but I start smelling somebody else or something, I'm like, go to the bathroom, put on deodorant and cologne. Because I don't want to stink. I mean, that's my biggest thing. I'm not going to be the stinky person in the room.
There is nothing no worse than that musty fan being in front of you that's got like 4 inches of dandruff on their shoulders. And I'm not knocking somoone for having dandruff. I mean, they make your head and shoulders, but
no,
when you got the snowfall, it's like Colorado mountains on their shoulders.
No, it's not
and they smell horrible. Oh,
it's not the fact of they have issues with it. It's the fact that they don't try to take care of it. So, like I said,
you can tell these are people that they spent their rent money to be here. They shouldn't even be there. Honestly, I'm not knocking people with the struggle. But you could tell people that aren't archived properly.
Yes, it's a different, slightly different word. Because even going to them now, I mean, that's one of the things you still encounter. But I've noticed I encounter that more now when it's one of those that's at a 4-H center where it's all outdoor buildings. Yeah. And they just open the doors and you file in. So like in the summer, I won't go to those because no. But now,
luckily the last one
I'll go to those.
But luckily, the last two we went to was late summer or early fall, so it wasn't too bad. But let me ask you this: so, in a post-COVID convention world, the rest of the one I went to was no mask, but at Days of the Dead, there was still a few stars wearing masks. How do you feel about that when, because you want to get your photo with certain stars? How do you feel about that when they want to wear their mask? Does that always make you not want to do the photo op?
It doesn't bother me mostly because I really 9 out of 10 times won't do the photo op. I've taken maybe 5 to 10 photos at these places with somebody. Like I'll take a picture of them or maybe go stand next to them at the table if they'll let you do that. But just a full-on photo op, I don't really pay for those because I don't like paying for a picture of people. So I don't do those very much. Like I was in. It's easier to get those too when you go to these smaller conventions or when you go to, and they're not even conventions anymore. I see a lot of celebrities just going to toy stores and doing signings or going to comic shops and doing signings now. Especially like for us, like for me, like I went to a comic store or a toy store here and met Austin St. John, the original Red Ranger. I'd already met him at a Cape Comic Book Convention in Cape Girardeau, Missouri, and it was it's not very small, but it's a smaller one. So it's a 1 or 2 day thing. But just walking up to him and there, and he's like, him and the guy who played Zord or did the voice of Zordon, Dave Fielding, were standing there, and they're like, hey, I was like, oh, get this sign. So they're like, hey, you want to take a picture too? Because they were just taking pictures randomly. Yeah. I was like, sure. But I don't do the photo ops. I can see where that's a little bit frustrating, especially if you want to be seen. It's like, how do we know that's really the person you were in the picture with, right?
Yeah.
Now I will say that I will.
The
Go
first
ahead.
time we met Derek Mears, he was like a sweetheart. Like I had to finally just tell him after talking to him for 20 minutes, brother, you got a line here. I mean, you know, he was that kind of guy. But when we went 2 Days of the Dead, he was there, and he was still a sweetheart. I'm not saying he wasn't, but he was insistent on wearing his mask. And like I was like, fuck it. And he's like, you guys want a picture? And I didn't want to. He was such a nice guy. You didn't want to say, well, fuck, I don't want a picture if you're gonna wear that mask. But you know, he was like being legit cool. Like he wasn't charging for the picture. But you know, it was my wife's first con, so I was like, okay. So we took a picture with him, but he had his face mask on. It was like
that's cool. And then going into one, like I was in New Orleans Comic Con once, and just standing over here, the kid and his mom were in the restroom, and I'm just standing in the restroom waiting on them to come out because they went with me, so I didn't have to go by myself. And Norman Reedus, Daryl from Walking Dead, walks by because he's going to his photo op, and he's walking around. And he's got this unicorn that's it's one of these huge plushies, like you were winning a carnival or something like
that. Fair or something.
Yeah, it's like a 4 foot tall unicorn plushie that some fan gave him. He's walking around. He just walks over there and stuff like, hey man, how's it going? So good. How are you, sir? I knew who he was, but he just carried on conversation. I was like, I was staring at the unicorn. I was like, that's kind of weird. He's like, man, this thing is cool. He's like, one of the fans gave it to me. He's like, it's really cool. He's like, and then one of the handlers was like, sir, you gotta get to the photo op here later. He's like, well, I guess I gotta go then. He's like, nice to meet you. Hope you have fun. I said, come over to the table later if you want to. I mean, just
see, those are the cool experiences. Like Kane Hodder was that way with us. Like it's like literally, I done went to Tom Savini's table. I done went to Derek Mears, and I had my Jason mask, and I had both of them sign it. And I was like, fuck, we gotta get Kane to sign it too, so I can have all of them. And like we were kind of like stalking around looking for Kane, and then I seen him off in the distance. I was like, so I told my wife, I said, hey, we just kind of stand over here, and we'll wait on him to get back to this table. When he gets back to the table, you know, well, I guess he had spotted me. I don't know. I mean, I stand out in the crowd. I'm fucking 6'4" and 280. I mean, tattooed up with a mohawk. I mean, I stand the fuck out. So it's funny. We were standing there, and he snuck up behind us and snatches my Jason mask out of my fucking hand. Just keeps trucking this table. I was like, what the fuck? Because at first I thought I got, you know, swindled by somebody. So I'm like, you know, ready to throw hands, and I look and I realize it's King fucking Hodder. You're not going to throw hands with King fucking Hodder. So I followed him back to the table and said, oh, is this yours? And I was like, yes, sir, it is. And then he looks, he's like, you motherfucker. And I said, what? He said, you give that son of a bitch the money shot at the top. That's where I wanted to sign. And I was like, I've seen him before I saw you. I'm sorry. You know, that's kind of cool shit, but versus the stand experience.
I will say though, as much fun as they are, I don't go to as many as I used to, honestly, because they've gotten more to those appearances, which is cool with some of those people, and then some of the people who are there, I'm like, why are you at a comic convention? Because the show that you're on is not sci-fi, or it's not. I get it, people want to come meet you, that's cool, but it's just not for me, so I don't go to them as much. But yeah,
kind of like Linda Blair, and all she wants to talk about is rescuing dogs. Like she was at this horror convention, you know, and hey, she was in the fucking Exorcist, you know.
But I mean, I went,
and all she's talking about is like she wouldn't even do an autograph for you if you didn't sign up for her Save the Animals shit.
I have gone to more toy conventions in the last few years than comic conventions because for one, I've been buying more toys that way than I am comics because you can get so many trades now. It's kind of hard to say I need to go buy a bunch of old issues, but so we've gone to more toy because they have a lot more toy ones in the area I'm at because it's a big area for that because Kenner started here and several things. So I've gone to a lot of those, and a lot of those they bring in like the voice actors from the cartoons, and I've had a lot of fun going and meeting them and getting autographs from them, even though you don't really know their face, but you know the character they played. I've done that more than I've done comic ones, but I brought that up to say because I've done those, and the voice actors are there, and that's cool. And you get a lot of stuff you can buy, and there's a lot of people selling stuff there that you might want. Versus the comic conventions now, which has gone more to less comics, less action figures, to other pop culture stuff to buy that I like. I don't buy Funko Pops. I don't buy the glasses with stuff printed on it. They're cool, but I don't buy them. And then, like, I went to one here, and it's like, hey, here's this person over here, this famous person signing autographs, and they're from Law and Order, SVU. I was like,
why?
Where's the guy from the Marvel movie?
Yeah, no shit.
I mean, it's like I'm not degrading them, and you know what? If fans want to come see them, that's cool. But I'm not going there for that. That's not what I went there for. So it kind of turned me
I
off
kind of
going
like
to it a little
the
bit.
smaller cons a little better. Like when we went to Dragon Con, and I'm gonna feel embarrassed the hell of my daughter if she were to ever listen to this, but you remember we went to Dragon Con and we met Master Shake, and I got him to do my voicemail on my phone, and like literally he's like,
Yeah.
"Hey, this is Master Shake. I have David in the trunk of my car tied up. He may or may not call you back because I may kill him." Yeah, it was like hilarious. Well, my daughter, she at that time she was young. She called me if she spent the night off. She was fucking calling me before she went to bed that night. It was happening. So with me being out of town, she she goes to call me that night and freaks the fuck out when she hears this voicemail because it went straight to voicemail because we were up in Atlanta. We were off doing various things and whatnot. So when it goes to voicemail, she freaks fuck out. I hear her screaming, "Not my daddy! He's got my daddy!" And then my wife called me and she was like, "You've got to fucking call this kid. She is to pieces. She thinks you've been kidnapped." And she's trying to figure out what the fuck's going on. And like I'm laughing. It's like hilarious to me. That was my voicemail for at least 2 years. And that cat was so cool. Like literally, I was just like, I got an autograph from him. It was like, "Hey, would you do my voicemail?" He's like, "Yeah, sure." And yeah, he did.
Well, since we have been here for a while, and just like your kidnapping experience, we've got to figure out how to escape this rabbit hole we've gone down. Why don't we move on into Nerd Out? Any last words before we move on?
No, man. I thought we've covered all the fun ones. And Big Rob went to a convention this past weekend and met Trish Stratus. He met Lita. He met Ron Simmons. Damn! He met some cool people.
So with that, let's move straight into Nerd Out then. So this is a part of the show. We ask random questions about topics of the day. We have to respond to each other with little to no prep time. We like hearing your answers as well, so please feel free to expand upon ours or provide yours in the comments below because we'd like to hear from you. With that, Hassel, you want to go first or you want me to go first? And we always do the questions that we come up with. We do have one viewer question to share this week too that we'll do after our we go back and forth. I've got the viewer ones queued up here too, so.
I'll go. What was your all-time favorite convention you've been to?
Ooh. It's probably a toss-up. MegaCon was my favorite one to try to go to regularly. Mm-hmm. So if I had to pick one that was consistently good, it would have been MegaCon. I didn't get a lot of autograph stuff there, but I bought a ton of comics and action figures of those. Yeah. The one, if it's a singular con you're asking about that I've been to that I enjoyed the most, that's a toss-up between, and I went a couple of times to both of these, but there's specific reasons for them. New Orleans, Wizard World New Orleans, and Wizard World St. Louis. So St. Louis I went to a couple of times and got to meet a few cool people, got some good autographs. And New Orleans is the one where I probably had the most interaction with the celebrities that I wanted to meet. Like that's where I got to meet Stan Lee. That's where Norman Reedus came up and talked. Jason Frank was at that one and did and besides just signing at the table, he did a little kata demonstration at some point because he got tired of sitting at his booth. So he went out and said, "Hey, can we pull off some space and do this?" And they set it up and you could go watch that and talk to him and ask questions and stuff. So probably a toss-up between those two. What about you?
Pretty fair. As much as I enjoyed MegaCon, it's just like you did. That was actually a very fun one to go to each year because you get some cool stuff.
If you're asking my consistent one, it would be that.
Yeah. And as much as I want to say the Dragon Con we all went to where Casey thought he was going to get molested by Al, and then we conned him into taking a picture with Hubert from Family Guy. That was a pretty fun just trip. I don't know. When me and Mr. Mittens went to the NWA Heritage reunion up in Charlotte, North Carolina, that was a very fun one right there because we literally when we checked into the hotel bar, the hotel on our way in, like Ole Anderson's sitting downstairs in the fucking lobby and like he's schooling motherfuckers. and we literally walk over there and he took a picture with me and give me shit for doing the Four Horsemen. We went to the bar afterwards. The Killer Bees was right there. Mr. Mittens ruined my picture with them, but they were really cool. They wound up being in the room next to us. They were the restaurants were very accessible at that one. I saw Jim Duggan's cocksucker ass cut me off in the parking lot so he could get to the bar before us. He still did. And then wanted to charge me for an autograph the next day after he told me to come to his booth and he'd hook me up. He was like, "Yeah, I'll charge you." I was like, "No, fuck you won't either. You keep your little piece of wood." But we had a pretty cool experience. We done the Jim Cornette deal. So many cool wrestlers. The Bees were going to sign my belt for free, and then they cussed their handler out for charging us. Man, I was probably overall fun trip.
Oh, that's cool. So here's my question for you this week. So we talked about experiences there, but what is one? This is a two-part question, so I'll try to keep it short. What's one convention you looked at, and then you decided after looking at it, it's like, nope, this is not for me. Not going to this. And one that you have one that you want to go to that you haven't been to, but it can't be San Diego or Toy Fair. We just cut out the two big ones.
One that I said is just not for me anymore is Dragon Con. As much as I used to really enjoy that one, it's become too much of a fantasy fest now.
Same answer here. The last one we went to, there was like maybe 3 comic vendors. Everything else was fantasy and actual dragon statue stuff. I'm like, yeah, this is not.
And it was 90% dragon lore, medieval shit. I mean, I didn't mind the girls in the bustiers, but yeah, aside from that, it was spread out so far too. Like it was on like different blocks and shit. A lot of walking uphill. Fuck that.
Yeah.
So that will be my, not for me. As far as one that I just haven't went to, I mean, realistically, man, I've been.
Stumped him today.
You did, because I mean, everything that comes in my neck of the woods, I've kind of been to. I've been to the Days of the Dead.
I've been to your neck of the woods every now and then.
This is true. I don't know. I kind of wouldn't mind going to maybe Joe Fest or something like that,
which is coming up this month in Savannah or Augusta, one of the two.
Yeah, it's just typically in Augusta, and I haven't ever been to it because it always ends up being like during a time when we have a lot going on.
Yeah, I think it's either this weekend or next weekend. I think it's next weekend actually. Yeah, for me the Dragon Con is the same as the one that I just decided it's not for me anymore. The one I've always wanted to go to, and it's not even really a comic convention, more or less. It's more of a pop culture thing, but I love this property, this intellectual property so much. I'd like to actually go there and actually get to meet the folks from this TV show. But I'd like to do the Supernatural convention.
You know, I didn't even think about that, but that would be fun.
Yeah, those I love that show. Those guys are there fun. Like just watching their panels. I watched a few of their panels online where they're up there and they're cracking jokes on each other and stuff, and just being like completely rude, and then they have like
it's very accessible with the fans.
Yes, I would actually like to go to one of those and meet those guys just for the heck of it. With that though, let's go to this. So I've got our viewer question here. So it is Yo Joe June, as we all know. So Hasbro drops stuff regularly, and this question came up through a conversation through some of our social media. But in honor of Yo Joe June, Joe and Cobra has some really outlandish designs and descriptions of what the characters were. They very much leaned into that sci-fi element a lot of times, right? Some of that worked, some of that didn't. But when you look at all the characters that they had, it's probably more on the Cobra side than Joe's, but we'll include whichever one. Joe's tried to be a little more realistic at times, somewhat. But out of all those characters, what was the weirdest, most far-fetched, maybe even useless character and design of one that you could think of?
Off the rip, I want to say Globulus.
You know what, though? They were leaning so far to the sci-fi element of that, and they're a whole different race. I was like, I can deal with that. That one didn't get me as much.
To be honest, dude, that when they done, I think they kind of jumped the shark when they done the toxic ones, where they came with the little water guns and they sprayed them and they changed colors. They were trying to get into
their whole eco-friendly one stuff. I mean, that was during the time of Captain Planet.
Eco Warriors or whatever the hell they were. That to me, that was probably it.
That's a fair one. You know what it is for me though? It's the Cobra member, Raptor. When he runs around. Wait a minute now. Have you ever read his bio card? He was an
dude.
IRS tax accountant who decided after learning falconry that he wanted to become a thief and use falcons to steal, take his skills of falconry and steal items. And he was recruited by Destro to join Cobra
Dude.
because he tried to steal from Destro. But when you're running around, it's not even that his skill set was using the falcon, because let's be honest, Spirit had his eagle freedom, right?
But he had this little like
But
eagle
it's like
Hawkman type deal going on.
Spirit was the stereotypical Native American dress at the time that they used for his character, but he was still human looking and
cool.
conspicuous. You gave this guy a falcon to go steal stuff, and then you put him in a cloth cape that does not allow him to glide or fly, and a big bird head, and it's like, you don't see me over here sending. I had nothing to do with that bird that went over there and stole that stuff. I mean, I don't know why y'all would even think that. Probably because you wear the big ass bird head.
That was what I figured I had suppressed. like literally, as soon as you said that, it unlocked memories. Like my lion's mane kicked in then, and like my memories unlocked, and I was like, "Holy shit, I forgot about that guy." But my god,
I think he was the most weird and far fetched to me. It's like, and don't get me wrong, Cobra has some different ones, like Metalhead. When this dude's got rockets strapped to his legs, I'm not putting any rocket that could either blow
Crystal
up
Ball was another one that was fucking just weird.
Yeah, that was another one. But
I was around that era there where it was just like, let's throw some shit at the wall and send these kids a bite.
When the question came across, my first thought was Metalhead, because I'm like, I'm not wearing a rocket strapped to my leg that's that close to my crotch that one of them blue lasers hits and I'm losing everything. But he had them all over the body, so I mean he would have blown up. Period. But still, those were bad. But Raptor just seemed like the most weird and far-fetched. Like, why is an IRS tax accountant now all of a sudden a thief with a falcon, and he's wearing a big bird head and living on nature?
There's nothing but two things in life that's guaranteed: death and taxes.
But I looked at him and I was like, not only are you the most far-fetched, you're probably the most useless. What did you really accomplish for Cobra?
Nothing. He hid their numbers from the IRS.
That's what got to be about it. I saw that after hearing this question. I was like, oh, wait a minute. Because, you know, they had some weird ones, like the Saw Viper. Like, I get the idea what the Viper is. Why has he got this big, weird looking helmet that looks very like a flying saucer on his head? But
matter of fact, there was one that I seen. Like, I shared that picture on our page the other day where they had the 89 Joes, and there was one of the Vipers on there that was like, he was tan and blue. I forget what kind of fucking Viper he was, but he had this like little round thing.
Oh
shit! But he had a cool helmet though, but it almost kind of looked bug-like in a little way. But I just remember as a kid, I liked that figure, but it didn't make any sense. I was like, but I don't remember what kind of Viper he was now.
Was it a Frag Viper? Was it the Frag one that had the weird big old helmet, and he had like an orange and blue suit?
I've got to look now because I think I still have the picture on my phone.
I mean, there's a Heat Viper, there's a Frag Viper.
Well, the Heat Viper I kind of get. I mean,
well, he's wearing, flame retardant suit.
Oh no, I might as well lose it. Fuck. Oh, fuck with my holes.
So I don't know if you can see this.
There he is.
That's the Frag Viper.
That fella right there, yes.
That's the Frag Viper, yes.
Okay.
He had a cool helmet, but
I finally found him. That was him, though. Next to the old Alley Viper there.
And do you remember he was, this is
I don't
when
know why I was going to call him a Fang Viper for some damn reason, but...
Do you remember when G.I. Joe had the DEA agents on their team? They had the Cobra had the head man who was the drug dealer, or the pinstripe suit.
They were literally just saying, "What can we make?" At this point, these people are buying anything. Because G.I. Joe mania was at an all-time high in the mid to late 80s.
Oh yeah.
By the 90s, it was just like let's get them while they're getting good because they're fixing to fade out on us.
Yeah. But since you brought up fading out, I think it's time for us to fade out of here as well. So before we leave, though, Hassel, tell everybody where they can find us at.
You can find us most importantly here on YouTube. Like, subscribe, share, hit the bell so you hit all the updates when we hit you there. We're on Facebook at Hassel Hutchinson. We are on Instagram at the Nerdy Manroom Show. We're on Spotlight Media on Roku and Fire TV, and we
Or wherever
are,
you find your streaming services.
yeah, we're on Twitter at Nerdy MR Show.
And while you're checking us out, don't forget to go check out our extended Nerdy Manroom family member, Big Rob. You can find him on his channel, Big Rob's House of Entertainment and No Chinese Food,
No Chinese food.
where he does his fantastic toy unboxings, his toy hunts. This past week it was the wrestling convention and some of his experiences there, so make sure you go give him a check out. And after that, after you checked all of our stuff, all of our media out, you checked out Big Rob, go check out our sponsors. We want to give a big thank you to them, These Own Collectibles. You can find them on the internet at theseowncollectibles@gmail.com and on Facebook at These Own Collectibles, or in their store at 305 Main Street, Tifton, Georgia. Just do not let Hassel send you, because he will cause you to spend twice as much as what you should
You'll
have.
spend more than you should.
But do go there and visit them for all your nerdy needs. Help them support the local artist community by supporting their cause of bringing unity through community. Fandoms unite. And stick around at the very end here and check out our end credits. You'll see some of our friends and details in the credits. Then come back here, join us here next time. We're going to take a look at kaiju films and monsters. Since Hassel's on such a big kick with his Monarch show, we're going to take a look at some of that. Until then, live nerdy. But please remember, if you go to the convention, wear your deodorant and your cologne or perfume.